Okay, so just to check maybe again, one of us can just say whether you're able to see the screen from your end so that we begin. And maybe you can say through, I can just unmute and speak so that, because I'm already presenting, may not be able to see the reactions on the screen. Any member?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so my name is Peter Wairia, and I'm welcoming you to this conversation tonight for about the next few minutes, just to be able to have a look at wealth and legacy protection through the avenue of using trust in Kenya, trust funds. We are going to explore and see how we can be able to maximize trust funds. I believe this is a conversation that opening up. That's why we are coming to this piece, just to be able to share information and be able to disseminate, so that we can see how we can maximize. So I work with a company called ICL Trust Company. As you can see from my end, ICL Trust Company offers corporate trustee services, and that is part of the ICL Holdings, which is a group of companies comprising of ICL Life, Asset Management, General Insurance. But for us, we majorly focus on the trust solution side. So we have been offering trust solutions. The company, ICL Trust Company, has been in existence since 1984, offering trust solutions to both individuals and corporates, and managing wealth transition for generations, and administering portfolios for many great families in Kenya. And we are even going to give some examples even as we proceed. So at the ICL and Trust Company, and majorly now focusing on the trust funds, one of the major solutions we provide is called the Milele Estate Plan. And the reason why it is called Milele is just to connote that it is timeless, because we understand that as human beings, where we are today is a result of a life story that has has happened for a very long time. Our life began many generations ago. There are many people who have come before us, many generations that have existed before you were found on the planet. And now we are here at the present. And after us, there are many generations which are going to come. So we have a chance to be able to determine the trajectory that those who are going to come after us, how are they going to find life moving. So we usually have a solution that can help you have a say and be able to shape how your generations after you will be able to take forth from here. Because for what has happened in the past, we might not have a lot of control over that. But going forward, we have a say, and we have structures. We don't our existence on earth doesn't have to cease by our exiting the scene. We can have a say even after we have exhausted our days here on earth. So this conversation that you're going to have, the major sole purpose is for solidifying the art of family wealth, because all of us as Jews and in our own various callings, we usually put a lot of effort day in, day out, building we are all working to build something. We are all working very hard. Every day we wake up and there's something we are working towards. We have an end in mind when we are pursuing all that we are trying to accomplish every day. So as you move, I'm going to be getting narrowed and clarifying more. The reason why we work so hard every day is because we want to protect our loved ones. So we need structures on how to be able to accomplish that, and we are going to be having that deeper look at it tonight. Even referring to the scripture, the Bible also talks about this conversation. It talks about a good man leaving an inheritance to his children's children. But now the question is, how are you able to achieve this, to leave an inheritance to your children's children? It means there needs to be a structure for you to be able to accomplish that. And that's what we are going to be focusing on tonight. Just to begin, these are in life you usually learn from history. We say that history is one of the best teachers. So yeah, I'm going to compare for us two accounts of two major men who lived in the past, and we see the decisions they made and how it turned out at the end for them. There's one man called Cornelius Vanderbilt. He was an American. He lived between the years 1794 to the year 1877. He was an American business magnate, and he built his wealth in the railroads and shipping. It is said that in the year 1877, he was the richest man in America. That is the equivalent of Elon Musk. He was the top man that year. But something happened that 100 years later, after his passing, his descendants met for a family reunion, and there was no millionaire among them. It is said that in his estate, he just wrote a will. He distributed his assets and properties to the various family members. But the end result of that is that within 100 years, just a few generations down the line, the wealth was no more, despite having been the richest man in America by that period of time of his existence. Then we can compare his account to another man who's another family called the Rockefellers. This one I know all of us know. This one is a household name to date because the Rockefellers had a different approach from the Vanderbilts. They established something that was able to propagate what they had built over their lifetime. So the difference between the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers is that for the Rockefellers, they established a family trust for their wealth, and they incorporated professional management in the estate they had built, which even incorporated things to do with like charity work and funding foundations. And then there was proper governance in whatever they had built. This one resulted in ongoing growth, and it preserved their estate through multi-generational times, and their wealth is growing to this very day. And even today, we can be able to say that the Rockefellers as a great name on the planet. So that was a major differentiator of two approaches that the families had. The Vanderbilts, the one they didn't die intestate, whereby one can die without having a will. Yes, they left a will, but what was the implication of that will? Then the Rockefellers established something called a trust fund or a family trust. And we can see the result of the same over years that have happened. So we have an account that we can compare just to be able to project even how from here we can progress. Why, if we are able to think about that example of the Vanderbilts, why did the estate that they had built so hard to the extent that that family was the richest in America by that time? Why did that estate vanish within no time, less than 100 years later? The biggest risk and the biggest cause of that is usually it happens in transition because we are not immortal. At some point, we may have to exit the earth, and we have to pass down whatever we have built to some other custodians. So that's where the danger comes in when we are transitioning our wealth and what we have accumulated. And from here, we are going to look at just a few causes of why the wealth vanishes and depletes, even as it passes down the generational lines. And from this donut structure illustration, we can be able to see the way it is subdivided. There's one of the factors that is taking a whole 60%. Another factor is taking 25%, another 12%, and the final one is 3%. So this one that is taking 3%, which is now the common causes of of failure in family wealth transfer. It is the one marked in red, and it is the breakdown of family communication and trust. What this means, one of the reasons why wealth disintegrates and fails upon the point of transfer is because most families have not yet built a cohesive structure among themselves on how they can have a common agreement. Most of the times you find that whenever there is a transition or whenever the original creator of wealth has exited the scene, mostly fracas and wrangles just emerge because everyone in the family has got divergent views. Maybe not even with the intention, but people are just created differently, and maybe they have different pursuits, Other people even exist in different parts of the world. You find that even others, after finishing school, there are those who remain in Kenya, others go abroad. So it is very hard for them to have a common view on how to, to administer their estate, especially after the founder has exited the scene or has passed on. So that one now causes a lot of wrangles, and you find that even others end in courts and ceasing succession cases, and from there the wealth cannot be preserved, and eventually the result is that the fate just happens and the wealth mostly vanishes. So that breakdown in family communication and trust among the family members is one of the major causes of that disappearance of wealth during transition. Then there is another cause, which is now the second largest, taking 25%. That one is about the inadequacy in the preparation for the heirs on how now to be able to accommodate that wealth and to administer it prudently. You find that most children of the second generation that comes after us, if you are not keen to inculcate the mindset that we had when we were building the wealth, most of the time they are going to probably squander that wealth or not maximize it to the best optimal advantage, and eventually it will either stagnate or grow, or even at worst case scenario it will even be disposed of unprudently, and eventually you find that there is nothing to trace from what we had built. So that lack of preparedness, even the financial skills, and that kind of a reasoning that can help to propagate wealth into the future is not very much existent. So the other number three cause of failure in that transition, taking 12%, is the failure to establish a family mission. And there's something called family mission. And in the ICL Own Trust Company, this is one of the discussions we usually have with the families that come to us and to establish family trusts. We usually guide them on how they can be able to sit together and come up with a mission as a family, whereby they are able to define who they are, what they stand for, and even define a direction on what they want to achieve. They can project even several years to come, the next like 50 years, and even years to come, and be able to determine this is what we stand for and this is what we pursue as a lineup of generations. So there's that family mission. We are going to be looking at it briefly down the slides a bit. So when there is no family mission, because a mission number one defines where you are going, brings about unity. If there is such a lack of such a structure, it also poses that danger of causing the wealth to disappear, and takes about like 12% from that donut illustration. Then the final cause of that failure in transfer is now it's about the assets themselves, maybe the property and how you administer them, how we structure our taxes, how we structure the investment. That takes the smallest part, just about 3%, because that one, most people are very prudent. They work very hard. They focus on the assets themselves. They build diverse structures and ventures, and they really build estates, but they forget to cater for the rest of the major foundational walls that should be in place to ensure that whatever you have will be preserved. Especially now the soft matters, because you see all the others are like soft matters or soft issues of life. So that's a brief statistics of how transition causes failure and disappearance of wealth down generation lines. And as a result of that, we are seeing so many cases happening even in our day and age, whereby like now in Kenya, we are about 60 years since the independence, and most of the people who fought for independence and those who have really labored to build the country are maybe retiring or maybe exiting the scene. Some of them are turning 80, and some have been passed on, some of the major families. And after they have transited, you have seen how wrangles have appeared from their heirs, because they don't know what to do with the estate that was left by the founders. So it is bringing about that very great need for people to now think of new models of being able to close these gaps, so that whatever we are building will not bring wrangles, but rather it will continue to be of good benefits to those that we live for, and even for us even during our lifetime. So yeah, then you can see even other examples there. This is just a highlight of some newspaper we picked just to demonstrate, whereby we have seen those cases, very many cases in courts nowadays, In fact, I was seeing some statistics the other day that the family court in Nairobi was complaining of being overwhelmed because they had 20,000 outstanding succession cases that were not yet handled, just in Nairobi alone. So they were feeling overwhelmed. People are just waiting for the mention of the cases and appearing in courts to be able to resolve disputes about succession matters. But all that can be prevented, and we are going to see. So when you are doing generational wealth planning, there is one thing we usually talk about, and a rule that has been studied over years. It is called the third generational rule, and it states that most families lose their wealth by the third generation. This just to reiterate what we have said up there, that after the founders of and the creators of wealth being the first generation, once they go, their grandchildren mostly don't realize what they had done because it is all vanished and they have to start from square one all over again, which doesn't have to be the case. But for us Africans, this has been our fate most of the times. And if you compare to other societies, even to our friends, the Indians, you find that they have a very different approach to these matters of inheritance and wealth planning. And for them, they can even start a very small venture, even like a very small family business, and build it over years. Like for example, Davis and Shatleaf, it was a very small engineering firm that started in the year 1905, just the backyard of a family in Westlands of Indians, and it was nurtured, it was passed down the generational lines. And currently, if you study Davis and Shetleaf, it is such a major company of engineering and serves out of portfolio of clients all over Africa. It is an empire of a business that just came from one family that consistently passed down that business over the years to the other generations, and even growing and expanding. So we should be able to really pay keen attention to this rule, or that generational rule, and see how to really avoid this fate that has been the fate of most African families. And the reason why we usually experience failure, just two reasons, is lack of financial wisdom among the heirs, and then lack of adequate preparation. So what we should be able to focus on is to focus on inculcating the first generational mindset down the generational lines. And I'm going to demonstrate how you can be able to do that. And that's what we usually guide families when they come to us. We usually guide them to create something called a family system at ICL on Trust Company. This one is a holistic approach to estate planning, whereby you just don't just think about the hard assets or maybe the liquid assets alone, but you have a holistic approach to estate planning, whereby you think about three major components which form the family system, which include the family members, the family value system, and the family wealth. So those are major components or that constitute a family system. And the family members, you ask yourselves, what generations are existing at the moment, and how can we relate amongst ourselves as a family, and what are the connections that we have amongst ourselves, what are the cooperations we have as family members. Maybe like how often do we meet, do we have like common goals that we pursue, can even organize to go for holidays together or to meet up country for maybe annual meetings, just to create cohesion, and then to bond among the generations which are existent. Because at any given moment, you find that we have like five generations existing together. You would find that we have maybe the boomers, for those who have done that generational study. We have the Gen X, we have the millennials, we have the Gen Zs, and even the Alpha. Because you can find someone who is alive, maybe in their 80s or 90s. They have their children maybe in their 60s, and they have their grandchildren maybe in their 30s, and those grandchildren have children who are maybe in their early childhood. So those are like five generations existing together, from boomers to Gen Alpha, all of them together. So they need to find cohesion, to find how to interact, because most people really pursue very different goals, different areas, and sometimes they disintegrate. And when now the founder of the world, it disappears or maybe transitions, the family that is left if didn't have a lot of cohesion or maybe unity among them, it can be chaotic. And eventually, whatever they had built will not even last for any long time. Then families need to come up with value systems. We guide families on how to sit down and come up with a constitution for themselves, being guided by the original founder, just to state who they are and their missions and the values they stand for. What do they believe in? What goals do they want to accomplish? What practices, their best practices, best practices do they hold on to? And then those guiding principles are constituted into form a value system that is written down and usually borrowed from the example of how God passed down the story of mankind. If it was not written in the Bible, and if it was just maybe given verbally or left to fate, maybe nowadays you could not have been hearing about whatever happened in the past and learning from how the Bible was captured. But those families in the Bible were captured very well, and whatever they believed in was captured through that structure, and it was passed down. And even today, you can be able to refer. So we usually encourage people to form a value system and put it in writing and pass it down and preserve it through that family trust so that even those who will come several years down the line, they're going to see where they have come from and have an identity. Then the third aspect of a family system is family wealth, and now this concerns now the assets, the businesses, how to do your investments, the social connections in the business, the networks, and that knowledge that facilitates the operation of the businesses that we are running. Because most of the times you only pay attention to that alone, but you forget the other matters that are very core that facilitate the transfer of wealth down the generational lines. So the intersection of those three key aspects in the family system is what creates now the estate plan. It creates the estate plan, and once you have those in place, you can be assured that you're able to now fast track your wealth, and you have the peace of mind knowing that whatever you're laboring for will not just last over your lifetime, but even beyond your lifetime. But I'm just giving a highlight because over the interest of time, but usually sit with our team and they guide you very well on how to structure these and how to come up with a very great personalized and customized system for your family. Now, going back to the discussion we are talking about tonight of about estate planning, just to remind ourselves, what is an estate or an estate plan? Excuse me. An estate plan is a process of preparing for the orderly administration and disposition, stock distribution of your property during your lifetime and even after you are exiting the life. So it's just about creating a plan, estate planning. So you just create a plan to create order in the administration of your estate, whatever you've built or whatever you are building, just to ensure that there's order how when you're existing now in your lifetime and even afterwards, there will be order on how it is being administered. If there shall be a need for a disposition, it is prudent disposition, both in your lifetime and even afterwards. So just create a very good system to define how it should be handled. That's what you call estate planning. And there's a registration in this country. We have a registration governing estate planning, and all these provisions in the law are the ones that guide us as we constitute our estate plan. There's the Law of Succession Act, Cap 160, the Trustee Perpetual Succession Act, number 13 of 2021, the Trustee Act, Cap 167, then the Land Registration Act, number 3 of 2012, in the Land Act number 6 of 2012, the Income Tax Act, and of course the Constitution of Kenya. So these are things you can take your time and just have a look at, especially the Trustee Perpetual Succession Act. This is a major part that concerns us, and then the Trustee Act. And this one for Perpetual Succession Act, it was amended in the year 2021 to create provision for families to create family trust. Before then, there was no such provision. We only had provisions for charitable trusts, but now the law was amended to create and to encourage creation of now incorporated trusts. Because before then we had registered trusts, which were not very effective. But nowadays you have incorporated trust, and I'm going to demonstrate at the very last slide of this presentation to be able to show you what we mean by that incorporation, because that's the major differentiator just as a layer of safeguard to make sure that the trust we have nowadays are not like the ones we have seen in history, because they are trust that families have created and they were not very effective. So there are changes which have been done to close the gaps which have been identified. Just some statistics here is that they have highlighted there was that the the family court in Nairobi was overwhelmed because of taxation cases being so many just in Nairobi alone. And then there's this organization called UFA, the Unclaimed Assets Financial, the Acclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFA. Currently, they are holding over 75 billion as of 2025. This one I read in the papers just the other day, I think last week. It was being estimated that there are still other assets which are undeclared, which are not have not yet been submitted to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, amounting to around 241 billion. And you can imagine these are people's assets that were not claimed, because this unclaimed financial assets authority receives funds which are not being claimed by people. It includes maybe like shares, maybe someone bought shares somewhere, then like in 3 years period they have not yet done any activity in that account, and the shares are still there. NSA is supposed to submit that shareholding, sorry, just a bit, that shareholding to the UFA, or maybe like life policies. People have bought life policies. They have not declared to their dependents that they have some portfolio somewhere. So such kind of assets, if they are scattered all over, and someone that has not declared to their family members or to their beneficiaries that they are things they hold, if it stays more than 2 to 3 years, it's supposed to be surrendered to the state. So you can imagine building an estate over your years, then eventually it goes back to the state. That's a very sad case, turn of life, and one should avoid that by having a structure in place. It is said that only less than 10% of families in Kenya follow the formal succession process, like having a will. Because those who think about succession in Kenya, mostly they just do the simple will, and it's only like less than 10%. Otherwise, other families are caught off guard, because people exit every other day, because this is life. And when they exit, especially the founders of estates, the people who are left behind, they are left with a lot of work to be able to find themselves and find a footing on how to pick up things going forward. 60% of Kenyans have not written a will, and this exposes families to conflicts and even financial loss. That's just a highlight of some statistics, just to have a look. Then, if we ask ourselves, who forms a part of our estate? Most of the times, you may think it is just about the assets alone, but it's not just about that. An estate is comprehensive. It consists of the founders of the estate, what they own in terms of the homes, vehicles, properties, maybe rentals, the family members they do have, their financial assets that they have invested, the household valuables that they possess, the businesses that they run as families, and also things to do like land. And here you can also include other things like valuables, people who hold even jewelry, very expensive items. There are very many people that people possess, and it all forms part of an estate. And we should be able to have a structure on how to administer such kind of an estate. And in Kenya, we shall be able to focus on the avenues that are used to administer estates. But before then, let me just highlight this very fast, just in passing. There are three ways in which people can exit the earth and handle succession. Number one, there are those people who usually form a family trust, and that all comes with asset protection, tax minimization, and wealth preservation. There are those who who write wills. That is called attested succession. If you have a will in place, which must be valid, uh, that means you have attested succession, but that will must undergo a probate process to be validated so as to be executed and by the administrators. Then there's intestate succession, whereby one dies without a will, or maybe has written an invalid will, because there are conditions for a will to be valid. But I'm not going to be looking at that tonight. So there are most people are found in this part of intestate section, because they are existing, just very busy pursuing life, but maybe something can happen and catch people off guard. So it is good to have structures in place, not for the fear of or the unknown, but for prudence and for wisdom. So as going back to estate planning, one of the major assets that we should use for estate planning, because we are seeing here, we have family trust and we have wills. Those are the two major um, avenues of doing estate planning. I'm going now to be focusing on trust funds, and that's why we called for this brief session, just a conversation, just to have a look at trust funds in Kenya. I was just doing some preliminary introduction, but now I'm going to be looking at trust funds, and we are going to define what is a trust. In simple terms, we say that a trust is a legal arrangement whereby a person who is known as a settler or a founder enters with a trustee to administer assets on their behalf for the benefit of their beneficiaries. So here we are saying that a trust is a legal arrangement, and it is constituting a person called a settler. If you are creating a trust, you get that legal term called settler or founder or grantor. But those are just legal terms. You can just use a founder for ease of understanding. But I know maybe some of us even have got that knowledge already. So you, as a founder, you get into an agreement with the trustee, like the SE Round Trust Company, and then you order them or instruct them to administer the assets you have for the benefit of the beneficiaries you're going to designate in your trust. So that trust that you create becomes like a legal person, and that legal person will be acting on your behalf based on your instructions, both in your lifetime and for generations to come. The reason why we are using this term legal person is because the trust that we are talking about right now here, the final stage of creating a trust is incorporation. It is going to be incorporated as a legal person who is separate from you, but that person will be guided by the instructions you give. And I'm going to demonstrate how you give those instructions that govern the operation of your trust, both when you are living as a family living trust, and even now after the exiting, whereby now it becomes testamentary going forward. So the trustee holds and administers your assets not for their own benefit, but for the benefit of the designated beneficiaries. So that's just a definition. And we are seeing there are three key parties in a trust. The settler, who is now the creator of the trust, also called the founder. There's the trustee that you are dealing with. Here we are talking about mostly the corporate trustee, though there are provisions to add even individual trustees. We are going to look at that. Then eventually there is the beneficiary. So for a trust to exist, there must be those three parties existing: settler, the trustee, and the beneficiary. So, and then it is a legal arrangement, not just a general arrangement. It must be legal, established with guiding principles. So in Kenya, we have got two major types of trust funds that we do offer, especially now with the ICL Trust Company or any other place. Um, and these are the two major trust funds. Wherever you shall go, even if you Google online or do a lot of research, you might find a lot of information, but it boils down to just to these two solutions of trust funds. Number one, you usually have the cash trust fund. Then you have the family trust funds. So the cash trust fund is the simplest version of a trust. And this one just holds and administers the liquid assets. There's a way you can structure it. And when I say that it holds and administers or manages your liquid assets, it means that you come up with a trust, you enter with an agreement with the company, and you tell them to create for you a trust, and you identify some beneficiaries, maybe like your children or your maybe like elderly parents in the village, like those people who are in diaspora. They usually create this cash trust fund for them to be able to remit help from abroad to their dependents back here, because you instruct a trustee that I'm going to pay you this fund. You hold it on my behalf. Then you instruct that they should be paying a certain amount, maybe on a monthly basis, to your parents at home, or maybe pay school fees for you directly to your school, or pay to your bank so that you can pay for yourself. It's a structure that it is created to help you create such kind of an order. And the advantage of this cash trust fund is that in the event that one exits the scene or dies, the money in a cash trust is directly accessible to the beneficiaries without having to go through probate. It is different from the case whereby maybe you had like 5 million invested somewhere in shares, or maybe it was in a bank account, and maybe you happen to exit the scene. That money, if it is in those other avenues, the beneficiaries cannot access that money unless they have to go through a probate process to get a grant to access the money, and it takes a lot of time to do that. But when you have your money in a cash trust, that money is accessible directly, and that's why it is advisable to have a cash trust. It is usually free to open. I'm going to demonstrate. That is very simple and very free to open. And you can structure it in two major manners. You can make it contributory, whereby you be funding the trust maybe on a regular basis based on your own volition. There's no one who determines for you how much you should give into a trust. It's just based on the goals you may have. Or it can be an anticipatory kind of a trust fund, whereby you create that trust, then you appoint it as a beneficiary in your liquid assets. If you have like a pension that you're expecting to be paid after retirement, instead of receiving the 10 million into a bank account directly, and maybe you may not be very confident in managing that money, that it might be exhausted in a few years, you can pay it to a trust fund, your own trust fund, then order that they be invested on your behalf, and you'll be living on the interest. If it is like 10 million, you can be saying that every year you live on the interest. Maybe if the because the cash trust usually give returns like 10 to 12% per year. So you can see that return that I'm getting per year, I'm going to live on just that interest, then preserve the principal investment so that that money can last for you for years to come, instead of having it in a bank account whereby it can be prone to quick exhaustion over the years. So if you do through a trust, it's more prudent. But I'm not going to delve so much into that because that was not our major focus. But if you can have a one-on-one session, I can give you a very comprehensive explanation of the same. Then you usually have family trust funds. This one handles and administers our wider portfolio. This includes fixed assets, things to do like land and buildings. Then if you have businesses that you operate, you have companies that you can own them through the trust fund. Liquid assets, if you have shares, stocks, bonds, whether shares or local shares or even offshore, you can own them through the family trust. Virtual assets, like those people who own intellectual property, they can bring them into the trust. And any other variable that you have, you can own it through a family trust. So a family trust is more advanced and administers more the portfolio. So I'm going to be looking at that more deeply just in a short while. But first of all, let me just give a highlight of the cash management trust, the cash trust. So this cash trust, just as I've said, it serves to protect and provide for you and your loved ones during your lifetime and even after. It can be contributory, receive lump sum, or even await anticipatory cash. Just as I've said, this just to reiterate. Then it is structured to cater for various needs, meaning that when you are creating this trust, you define a goal. You say that I want this trust to serve for the education of my children. I'm going to be funding it for the purpose of creating a fund. Maybe if you have like little children, you can say, I'm going to save for a long time, but 10 years contributing to the fund. And whenever school fees is due, you can always request funds from that trust, regardless of how long you've contributed. You can even be saving on a timely basis. Save for 3 months, the fourth month you withdraw and pay the school fees. Save again, or maybe save in an annual basis, then you withdraw the money to pay to meet your need. Or medical expenses, you can create a medical trust. This one I'm not going to explain tonight because a lot of details. Upkeep, charitable giving, or even wealth preservation, whereby you just live on the interest, or if you have a lump sum that you have been paid from wherever. So just as I've said, the funds held within a trust are invested at one long-term returns, and mostly the last 10 years we have had a return of around 8 to 12%. That's the average we have had in that trust, cash trust. And that return is administered to provide for the benefit of your beneficiaries. Um, just to like refresh our minds, because I know we have talked a lot. There are these things that people maybe wonder. whereby you can be thinking who will take care of my loved ones, especially my children, and ensure their education and Medicare is and general well-being is in place in the event maybe something happens. Okay, then another person can be wondering what will happen to my retirement savings or maybe my insurance benefits. If you have an insurance policy somewhere, or maybe savings just in a circle or wherever merry-go-rounds. Those are the places that people do put their money, even M-Pesa accounts, because there are people who die without giving their passwords, and the money just disappears in M-Pesa, and that one is submitted to the UFA, and people have got balances in M-Pesa, and if no one else knows your PIN, it can be tragic. So those are some of things people worry about. Then those who may wonder, how do I manage to secure a fund to cater for my family's healthcare needs, including that of my elderly parents who may depend on me. So there's a way you can maximize a medical trust. That the simple cash trust. There's a way you can use it to create a medical trust for your parents or maybe for your family. And if you're interested, we can have a discussion on the same later on that. So, in summary, that cash trust or the cash management trust has got these major utilities that you can utilize them for. You can create it for education, maybe for medical purposes, or for family care trust, whereby you create a salary for your family or for your dependents on a regular basis that you shall determine. You can create a special needs trust. If there are special kids who need a special attention, you can be able to create for them a trust and be able to look at their welfare. Then there's the Millennial Junior Trust, whereby you can say, if I have a small child or even a grandchild, you open for them a trust and then be saving a small amount on a monthly basis or whichever basis you may determine, or maybe put a lump sum and then hold it to compound over years. Then say that I'll put this lump sum here and hold it for this child until they turn 18. That's some things you can do through a trust fund, just like the way people are doing the junior accounts for children. But this is a better one because now this is different from money in a bank, because money in a bank is a whole different case in the event that one exists the scene. So how do you register that simple cash trust? It's very simple. It's a plug and play solution whereby you can apply. You just make the application either digitally through a portal, or you can fill the forms, because there are people who desire to do form and do signatures. There's that option to do that, but there's an easier way of doing it digitally through a portal, whereby we can get you to create it. When you're doing the sign up, usually get a grant letter. A grant letter is a summary of all the instructions you've given us. You have defined the conditions for that trust. Like now you have said, I want to save this money in this account, this trust, and it is for the purpose of the upkeep of my children. They will not be able to access it until they turn 18. And once they turn 18 and have finished maybe the first level of education, they can get a part of the payout from the trust. Then after they do the college by the time they turn 25, they can get another payout, maybe to start something or just to kickstart life. And then you can determine at the age of 30, they get another payout, maybe to support them, or maybe as they are doing weddings or they're having children, you can have that arrangement whereby you put money, then let it compound, or maybe contribute into the trust and let it compound, and then eventually it will be of great benefit. So you give special instructions through something called the grant letter, and we usually get on how to structure it. It usually, for the cash strategy, it is automated. We just amend and input your instructions and customize for you, so that you're able to guide how that trust operate. So allow me a moment. Okay, so that's the second part of the cash management, the grant letter. Then eventually, after you have done the setup and signed the letter to see it is as per your instruction, you are satisfied with the letter, you now fund the trust, whether through lump sum, contributory, or whichever mode you may decide to fund the trust, then wait for it to start operating as per how you have defined in your instructions. So the requirements for setting up this trust, you just provide your customer details like your ID, KRA PIN. If there are minors who are below 18, they usually require a birth certificate. And then you send the grant letter just to summarize. From there, it is set up for you, and you get a member number, a trust member number plus the trust fund name, and then from there you can just fund it. The requirement for creating the cash trust, the simple cash trust, is just an initial deposit of 5,000 or more. And this 5,000 is not a fee; it's just your money that you've put in into the trust, which you can withdraw anytime when you desire. Then you can top up as per your desire, depending on your objective. If it is school fees you want to be paying annually, you can be funding. Then at the end of the year you withdraw and meet your needs. If it is medical care, you want to buy a medical policy, and you don't have the lump sum of buying the very expensive medical covers, you can put the money here, invest it, then eventually you can even tell us to buy for you the medical cover. If it is a medical trust, we even procure covers for our clients from different companies and from different sources, but now based on your preference. We usually discuss with you to get the packages that you need and your desire, then we just procure using the money in the account if it is sufficient. Then the balance of the funds in the trust, it can be utilized for outpatient needs, because mostly we advise clients to purchase the inpatient only, because inpatient is the one that makes a lot of sense when it comes to coverage, because you pay a reasonable premium and get a huge coverage. But for outpatient covers, you pay high premiums but get not very high covers. So you usually advise, instead of paying to a company or for the outpatient, you can reserve the funds in the trust, then access whatever you need an outpatient need, but buy the inpatient only because it is more affordable. But that's a more intricate jargon. It's not part of this. Let me just concentrate on the what we are handling. So about the management of the cash trust, uh, the funds is held in a secure investment kit, because once you deposit the funds in the trust, our major first priority is capital preservation. We ensure that your money that you put, if you put like 100,000 or 1 million, is preserved. That's our major first priority. Then again, we invest the money to earn some returns. And just like I had said, in the last 10 years, we have had a return of around 8 to 12%. So the money is giving you returns from the trust. It is not just lying there idle. And then for us to be able to do all that work for you, to invest for you, to do some administration work, like now if you have you want to procure a medical cover, we do for you. If you want to pay the school fees for your children, we can pay for you directly to your school. If someone wants to take care of their elderly parents who are highly dependent, and maybe they're abroad and the parents are in the village, we can be able to cater for those parents, be sending help on a monthly basis, and coordinate on how they shall be getting the upkeep, and even you can coordinate with the specific shops for delivery or shopping to their homes. So we usually do administrative work, and that's why we usually charge 1% per annum of the fund that is invested to do that admin work. And then that charge is accommodated in that return, because the money usually gets returned. So eventually your fund will be growing. There's no way that you put a fund then you consume the fund. The fund will always be on the upside, even if the company is taking some management fee to be able to do that admin work for you, that administrative work, which is very done very prudently for you, for the best interest of your beneficiaries. So that's a highlight of the cash management trust, or the cash trust. And now let me go to the other major version, because as I defined, there are two major categories of trusts, whereby you had the simple cash trust, then the family trust. So let us now look at the family trust. And just to reiterate, as we had defined, a family trust is more expansive, more advanced, handles a wider portfolio. And then this one is a legal person that is created to protect and preserve family wealth during one's lifetime and for many generations to come. It is structured to hold and manage assets such as land, buildings, vehicles, business entities, liquid assets, valuables, and other treasured possessions as stipulated in the trust deed and rules. So here, just to highlight, is that what we can be able to observe is that this family trust has got a major differentiator in the name of something called a trust deed and rules. The trust deed and rules is the document you sit down with our legal team. in the company, and they guide you on how to write down your instructions and to instruct how this family trust will be able to be governed both in your lifetime and even afterwards. You see, it is managing a lot of a wide portfolio, not just the cash assets like the cash trust. This one includes everything that you do own, be it land, be it buildings, whether rent, commercial or residential, whether you have businesses, whether you own shares and boards and stocks and mutual funds, whatever you possess in terms of investments, if you have other variables in different places, you have intellectual property anywhere, whatever you possess, you can always now accommodate it and own it under your family trust. And for the administration of that trust over your years and even afterwards for generations to come, you draft this document called the trust deed and rules. Just like the way you have a title deed for land, you usually have title deed. For trust, you have trust deed, but it's called trust deed and rules because it has got it defines all the instructions in the trust. It is usually a comprehensive process, but you don't do it alone. You are given guidance. You just express your wishes, then our legal team is able to draft it for you and guide you on how to structure those instructions. Then you're able to go through that deed, confirm that everything is per your instruction and how you desire it to be and how it should be stipulated, and then you have the peace of mind to know I've now governed my estate prudently. So that now after you have done that trust deed and drafted it, the trustee has got a fiduciary responsibility to act for the sole benefit of the beneficiaries you state in that trust deed. So we have that fiduciary responsibility. It is enacted even in law because we are regulated. That the trustee should now act strictly as per how you have defined. And that's why we now manage your estate. We ensure that whatever you told us to do, we are going to act as per the letter and maintain and preserve whatever you have built and serve those that you have identified as your beneficiaries and preserve whatever you have built as per your desires. So that's a family trust. It is for holding now the wide portfolios. And we are going to see why you should set up a family trust. And for this one, we are going to be using some case scenarios to demonstrate. I'm going to be looking at the very first reason. Why should we have a family trust? Why should we not just stay like that and stay in peace and know that we live our life here on earth? When a time comes, we just go. Why should we bother ourselves to come up with a family trust? Number one is to avoid the probate delays. Probate is about the court processes that do happen, and in Kenya, when you hear things to do with the courts, I know maybe some of us have got an experience somewhere. If you have had a case somewhere in a court, is one of the major nightmares what one would not want to go through. If you should do pay every cost to avoid being in a court, because it's not one of the best experiences. So whenever we have a will, I'm just going to read verbatim. These are illustrations that I came up with just to be able to demonstrate why now you should one of the reasons you should have the family trust in place is because even with a will, families often face months or even years in probate or in the courts because bank accounts are frozen, businesses do stall, children and spouses may struggle financially. So there's this case scenario of someone called Mrs. Wanjiko, a mother of three from Nakuru, with her husband Peter, who was a diligent civil engineer who left behind a valid will, and he also had several bank accounts. He had rental apartments in his name. That's the spouse. And when Peter passed away suddenly, Mrs. Onjiku assumed that she could easily access his accounts to pay fees and medical bills, but she quickly learned otherwise. The bank accounts were frozen until the grant of probate was issued. Because when you are pursuing a will, I know if you've done research on how we do succession in Kenya, you're able to identify this process called the grant of probate. And what now happened? To move forward, she needed to allow her to file a petition for probate, finding a lawyer in Kenya. You can imagine, although it is all manageable, everything is manageable in life. Okay, let me admit this. Okay, getting a lawyer to file the petition because you cannot file for yourself directly. That's a cost and a process. Then you have to do the valuation of all the assets. now because of that now legal process. Then to advertise that to put that public notice to ensure there is no one who is claiming that estate. Then from there you start attending the courts and the mentions. When you hear that the case will be mentioned, they usually put a date. They scatter a date like next year, January. Something they create a lot of delays, and you feel like it takes forever. So the repercussion, the entire process dragged for 16 months, and the cost and cost her over 350,000 in legal and administrative fees during that time. The rent arrears accumulated, children's schools, and children's school nearly sent them home. The family car was repossessed, and the apartments they fell into disrepair. By the time the probate was granted, inflation had eaten into her savings, and the emotional toll was immense. Just like I have highlighted, that matters to do with courts in Kenya have drained emotions. I know most of us can identify. And had Peter transferred his assets into a family trust, none of this would have happened. So Peter could have saved his family from such an ordeal, and this is what the trust could have done to avert that problem. Um, could have taken effect immediately upon his death, because once you establish a trust, it is in place when you are living. It's called a family living trust, and then when you exit, it becomes testamentary, meaning it continues to operate. So it could have taken immediate effect even after his death, because even during his life it was still in effect, allowing the trustee to manage and distribute income to the family. As I have said, the money in the trust is usually accessible to the family without having to go through any probate process. So bypassing that court process, uh, okay, let me just read the way it is for ease of understanding. Bypass the court probate process entirely. Since the trust, not Peter personally, owned the assets. So you understand that the way I have said, we create a legal person and you transfer the assets into the trust. So that person owns the trust on you, or the assets on your behalf. It's not you who owns. So in this case, the assets could not be in Peter's names. They could have been in the name of the trust, but they belong to Peter because the family trust is for Peter, but he's owning the trust in that legal avenue that is more structured, more immortal, and even that will propagate and carry on after his exit. So it could have bypassed in such kind of manner. Hope you are understanding. Then that case it would have provided the continuity, keeping the rent corrections from the rentals, paying the school fees, and keeping the business operations ongoing. Then it would have saved time and costs, eliminating the legal bottlenecks and even the emotional distress. So the result, Mrs. Wanjiko and her children would have continued to receiving financial support without interruption. Their home, lifestyle, and stability would be preserved. The trust would quietly handle what the probate system delays. The trust would quietly handle what the probate system delays for years. So that whole ordeal could have been eliminated and averted. There was a family trust in place. So we are looking at about the probate, the court process itself, and the delay that comes with that, and also the cost, because those are three major things that do come with a trust, with that process. Just a moment.
We can't hear you, Peter. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Sorry for that interference. I'm back. So I was saying that the solution of a family trust helps you to avoid the probate process and all that it comes with that whole scenario. So that's the first solution that it brings about. Then number two, it decreases about if you have a business, decrease business continuity, because when one has built a business, you have a company, you have a structure that you're operating every day and growing and nurturing. the event, there's a sudden occurrence whereby, as an owner, we exit this life. Many family businesses collapse within months after the founder passes away, not because they were unprofitable, but because no one could legally step in to run them. So there's a illustration here just to demonstrate, whereby you take an example of Kamau Engineering Works, a thriving manufacturing firm in Thika, where when Mr. Kamau, the founder, suddenly passed away, everything grounded to a halt overnight. The company's main account was frozen pending probate because he's the only one who could have accessed that account. Then the key suppliers refused to deliver materials since there was no authorized signatory, because now there are no payments. Employees were unpaid for 2 months, and the skilled technicians left because now if there's no pay, there's no, you can retain the employees of the business. Then the long-term clients took their contracts elsewhere due to uncertainty. By the time the court granted probate for 14 months later, what had been a flourishing business had lost most of its market share, and the family was forced to sell off the remaining assets to settle debts. So, how the solution could have done? The trust, we see that how it played out and how to the ordeal and the repercussion. Had Mr. Kamau placed his business shares and key assets under family trust, the transition would have been seamless. To demonstrate how it could have done so, the trust deed, the document you have just talked about, it could have appointed professional trustees or successor managers to immediately assume a legal authority. So how this happens, usually define clauses in the trust deed and say, in the event the main founder is not there, this is the process that you shall follow to appoint another manager. This is what we shall do in the event we need to replace a certain process. So you define those clauses in the trust deed to ensure that you establish governance of that business going forward, whether you are there or not. Then it could have authorized access, continued access to the operational accounts, like the payroll and the supplier payments, so that whether it is the staff in the company, whether it is the suppliers who supply the business the materials, they could have been furnished with their provisions to be able to continue operating the business. Because now, if there's no signatory to sign it for the payments, you can imagine now things ground into a halt. Then it could have laid out a clear governance rules, so that family members and managers know their rules, so that they are to prevent potential conflicts, so that no one will step into the other's mandate. Then it would preserve ownership of the family while ensuring competent leadership and continuity. Every business that you see going for maybe past one generation to the next, this is how they preserve it. They usually come up with a structure. It cannot happen by chance or just by relying on fate. So the result could have been operations continue without disruption, employees stay and the suppliers are paid, and the businesses remain stable, honoring the founder's legacy while securing the family's future. So that's how the trust could have resolved that. Then there is the issue of conflicts, the other solution that is brought about by a family trust. We have all seen families torn apart, whereby siblings fight, court battles come up, step relations are excluded, and even children are denied their rightful share. Like now, we can see this example here. The story of Mr. Ochieng from Kisumu, a respected businessman. He left behind a will dividing his estate among his wife, 3 children, and 1 child from a previous relationship. After his passing, what should have been a moment of unity quickly turned into years of hostility. His eldest son insisted that he should inherit the family home because he was the firstborn. I know most of us have had this issue of a firstborn, especially a son. They usually get that a lot of feeling that they deserve more, and the others are not so happy about it. And now that brings conflicts among families. And then the second-born daughter, who ran the family shop, refused to step down. So another person is claiming a stake, saying, "I also own this. I'm the one who has been charged. I deserve to get that." Then the stepchild who was locked out completely because he was accused of not being part of the family. Because life happens and people maybe have different diverse relationships. You can see a beneficiary who is a rightful beneficiary, but now because of such a circumstance, they really end up suffering. Then the widow, overwhelmed and grieving, found themselves dragging are dragged into endless court sessions. So you can imagine now trying to resolve all this because maybe one went to the court, one is now bringing injunctions against the other. So imagine now having to attend those sessions in the middle of such a sad scenario. So by the third year, the legal fees had eaten up into the estate. Properties had been sold to cover the costs, and the once tight family no longer spoke to one another. Okay, the will meant to preserve peace, but instead it became the source of pain. One thing I can highlight here, although it's not part of my presentation, is about now how the implication of people who leave a will. You see, a will is just an instruction and a list of wishes that you just declare. I want this to be like this. I want this one to get that. You just declare up to that farm, but you have got no other say. You cannot have a say after you have given the distribution instructions, because a will mostly just for dividing your portfolio among your beneficiaries. But beyond there, it doesn't serve any other purpose, and mostly the will just uh, causes wrangle, because now as you go through the court process, one may say that this was not fair. I could have gotten this. So they have that right to query the will and to just say they are not satisfied. So it brings a lot of conflicts without maybe having to delve so much deep for the interest of time. But when there is a will, mostly there's a lot of conflicts that emerge. So how does a family trust resolve that? And the trust deed, if they had had a trust deed, Mr. Kisumu family, the Mr. Ochieng family from Kisumu, the deed could have clearly defined each beneficiary's entitlement, leaving no room for interpretation or bias. They have said, whereby there is no one to interpret, because a trust is not interpreted, it is final. Whatever you state is final and is the final authority. Then it could have appointed neutral trustees to manage and distribute the assets objectively. If you create a family trust, we are going to guide you on how you create trust. You appoint trustees, both corporate and even individual. There's a way you are guiding on how to have trustees who manage and distribute assets objectively without any bias, so that there is no one who shall come up with a feeling that they have been discriminated. Then it could have allowed for customized instructions such as income for minors until adulthood, shares vesting gradually over time. So you're able to customize your instructions, like to define if you have like a minor who needs to be taken care of until they are of age, you're able to give that instruction and even provide the share of their provision, like the upkeep from that family trust. Then could have ensured that the family business, the homes and the incomes and assets remain within the trust protection, no, not subject to personal disputes. So you're able to consolidate that portfolio, all that you have built within that trust, and even create protection for it, and seal it from any disputes that can arise. So the result could have been, instead of quarrels and court battles, the family would have received timely and structured reports, school fees, upkeep, and business continuity for those ventures that they had put in place. The trust would preserve both wealth, harmony, and ensure Mr. Osheng's legacy or built unity, not division. So that's how the trust could have resolved that, just maybe to demonstrate. I know it is a lot of details, but I know we are capturing something. Finally, just not to capture so many, this is a final example I'm going to list out about the asset consolidation and protection, because as we had said about the billions of shillings that are lying in UFA, I'm not going to demonstrate this so much. I'm just going to highlight, because we had already talked about it. Maybe just to just read here. Uh, Billions of shillings in Kenya lie in the UFA. Money from forgotten insurance policies, dormant bank accounts, and collected dividends and enclosed pensions. Yeah, because even if you have a pension, you don't disclose to your dependents more than 2 years in that account, it is submitted to FA. It becomes a property of the state. So, Mr. and Mrs. Otieno from Kisii, Mr. Otieno worked in the civil service for 30 years, and I was also a member of several circles. But I have seen so many people who own several circles. They have even merry-go-rounds. They have chamas. They contribute a lot of money monthly, and mostly men. and they have not yet told their spouses or the people who are close. They just contribute. Then we have people who have insurance policies in different places and other arrangements. Over time, he accumulated multiple savings accounts, life insurance cover, and some unclaimed dividends from old shares. When he passed away, his wife and children had no detailed record of his assets. They could only access one main account they knew of, but the rest, it was forgotten. It was buried in paperwork, a lot of passwords, and scattered records. Years later, when the family tried to trace in his benefits, they discovered that the insurance policy had matured and had been handed over to UFA. After lying unclaimed for 3 years, his Sacco shares had been transferred to the UFA register. Then even the old bank account had been closed because it was dormant. So that was the result of that. And how he could have avoided that is by consolidating his assets, bank accounts, insurance policies, shares, investments under one central record. Just like we said that the family trust holds everything you own into one central location in a very defined manner. He could have made the trustees it he could have made it the trustees legal duty to maintain active updates, renew accounts, and claim benefits on behalf of the beneficiaries. So when the trustee is in place, he's able to track and know by this year this policy which will be maturing, we are going to follow up. If this asset which is somewhere, we usually correct land, or we do this for the settler or the creator of the trust on behalf of his beneficiaries. The trustee has got that responsibility to be doing that, to manage and to administer that portfolio for the benefit of beneficiaries, maintaining that there is no whereby there will be a gap of anything being forgotten. Then it could be ensured that no asset goes dormant or forgotten, because the trustees must file reports, renew declarations annually, because they administer that portfolio actively, just like the way you are living, the way you are always keen about whatever you own. The same way that trust will be operating. It's just like a clone of yourself. We shall now be existing for many years because it is operating on how you defined it. Okay, then it could have provided the family with transparency, a single structure where all income, resources, and benefits are visible and traceable. The result, when Mr. Otieno passed on, his family would not need to hunt for scattered accounts or chase government offices. The trust would continue to collect all his income streams automatically, preserving every shilling for his family, not for the state. So that's how you protect her from the UFA risk. Then the final risk here, just to add a bonus, is about protection from creditor liabilities, because when you own an asset under a trust, this one I'm not going to read the illustration. Is that that asset, because it is in a trust, it is protected from creditor liabilities. For example, maybe you have done an investment, or maybe just to read here for a better understanding. I will not take so much time. When your assets are held personally, creditors can seize or auction them to recover debts, even if they were meant to support your family. Illustration: consider Mr. Karaoke, a self-made entrepreneur in Eldoret who ran a driving hardware business. Over the years, he had taken several business loans to expand, using his personal properties as security. When an unexpected market downturn hit, the cash flow dried up, and before he could restructure his loans, Mr. Karaoke fell ill and passed away suddenly. Within months, and suppliers began pursuing the repayment. Because all assets were in his personal name, creditors moved quickly. The family home was auctioned to recover a loan balance. Rental properties were attached to settle supplier debts. Vehicles registered in his family were seized by the auctioneers. His widow and children, already grieving, were left with almost nothing. The tragedy was just financial. Was not wasn't just financial, it was emotional. The home they built together was gone, and the business they worked for his whole life vanished under the debt pressure. You can see the risk of doing a business, yes, with a good will. You are not intended to take loans and then default intentionally, but life happens. There are economic downturns that do happen. If such kind of happening occurs, does it mean that your family should be thrown to the streets, or maybe they won't have the general upkeep that they need? Because life needs a balance. Even if you're getting a way to meet your liabilities, your family should be protected because it's foundational. So you able to protect your family from whatever may happen in life, especially financially, from creditors, when you have a family trust, because anything in a family trust cannot be claimed. It is sealed and protected. All right, so just to finalize is that here's how the family trust would have protected him. The assets in the trust, assets owned in the trust, they're owned by the trust, not by the individual. As we said, the trust is incorporated as a separate legal person. So it's not you who owns the asset; it is owned by the trust. So they cannot go to the trust; they can only come to you. So the personal creditors cannot attach them or at auction them. So the trust would still allow him to benefit from and control the assets indirectly as a settler or the managing trustee. Then, upon his death, the trust continues to operate unaffected by the creditor claims or his personal estate. Finally, the family retains access to income from rentals, dividends, or even other business operations, preserving their financial stability. So even as creditors pursued the business outside in debt, the family's core wealth remained intact, and their home, rental income, and the children's education would be fully protected. The trust acted as a financial firewall, ensuring that temporary setbacks of personal debts did not destroy generational security. So I'm not going to look at this for word preservation because I had demonstrated it. I'm just going to sum up these needs for a trust. Maybe I know we can recollect from what we have been able to gather so as to just see the need for why we need to establish family trust. I'm just going to jump to some of the tax benefits that we do enjoy when you create a family trust. Number one is exempt from the stamp duty. You know, stamp duty in Kenya is based as 4% in the urban property, and then the rural is 2%. So if you have a property of like 10 million, this one is just like a simple structure. In fact, in Nairobi, this one is not a very nowadays because of how the values have really escalated. It's just a standard value property, and the stamp duty for such is 4% if it is in around the metropolitan. And you can see if you transfer into a family trust, you are exempt from that 4%, which is like 400,000. A major savings that you do if you transfer your property into a family trust. Then there is no capital gains. It is exempt when you transfer your property to a family trust. For example, if you had bought a plot a few years ago, like 15 years ago in 2010, say you brought a plot maybe like 200K somewhere because they were cheap. A place like Utawala, if you're in Nairobi, then 15 years down the line, today 2025, that plot could be around like 3M, having grown by a huge multiplier over the years, a very huge multiplier. So imagine you are to pay the capital gains for that property, it is 15%. So, but if you put it under a family trust, you're exempt from such kind of a huge tax. So those are two major benefits you enjoy when you do a family trust. And once you sit to the tax advisory team, because you're going to have a sitting with them if you come up with this structure through the ICL Trust Company, they're able to advise you on how you can maximize and minimize taxes, and even delay some, and even be able to avoid those that can be avoided, because that's about being prudent. So I want to look at the key parties in a trust, because now our discussion was about trust tonight. As we had said that there are three foundational parties: settler, the trustee, and the beneficiary. Now we are talking about now the parties who constitute a trust. You have the settler, trustee, and the beneficiary. Then there is another layer that was incorporated just to create more layer of protection, called a trust enforcer. But this one is an optional party. It's quite optional. If you want to ensure that there is a third party that will be overseeing your trust and will be following up to see that the trustee that you appointed is operating as per the deed that you created, you can define a rule that defines and appoints an enforcer at any given moment. It can be maybe a family committee, or maybe an individual, whoever you may decide to appoint, uh, can be overseeing the operation of your trust for years to come. But that's an optional party. But the foundational pillars we have talked about is the settler, trustee, and the beneficiaries. Now, just to look at them and or maybe a highlight of their roles. The settler is the one who sets up the trust, he registers it, and then transfers ownership of the properties into the trust. Then he prescribes the conditions through the trust deed, as we have said, just to repeat again. Then he appoints the trustees who should manage that estate as per the rules they have defined. And we said that as we are going to see here in the middle about the trustee, when the settler is appointed a trustee, he appoints that trustee to run the property. The trustee can be either individual, uh, natural person, or a body corporate. So, like now, the general case scenario whereby if you create a family trust, it is ideal to ensure that of course you have a corporate trust like ICL or trust company. Then yourself, because when you are alive, you must be a trustee. You appoint yourself as a trustee also. So you play two roles as a settler and also as a trustee, because you have a say to determine what they should do with whatever you have given them. So you have a very full say as a board, a settler, as a trustee, and you can even decide to appoint the company as a successor trustee, whereby, sorry for that. Mm. Attention, you are still able to see my screen? Just want to confirm kindly. Hello, we are still on the session. Maybe you want to.
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Because I've had an issue with my writing here, but it's all right. So we proceed. We are seeing about the trustee can either be individual or a body corporate, and the individual part mostly is now the founder. The founder is by default. Most of the people who create family trusts, when they are leaving, they are also settler and trustee. Then together with the corporate. Then you can say, instead of having the corporate working together with me, during my lifetime, I can appoint the company as a successor trustee to take over after my exit, so that it is testamentary. But those agreements are made now when you're doing the setup, and you have all that leeway. You're able you discuss with the legal team, and they give you all the options in the table, and you choose what you want to go by. All right. So the trustee that if you have appointed a corporate or maybe individuals, they have got fiduciary duties over beneficiaries. Fiduciary means acting in best interest, and every action they take or any decision they make it should be done in the best interest of the beneficiaries that are defined in your trust through the trust deed. So that aspect of the beneficiaries, and they have the beneficial rights to the trust property, because now the whole purpose of a trust is to preserve and to maintain wealth for the purpose of the people that you have appointed, be it whoever you may decide to appoint. And it can be as vast as possible. People who are existing nowadays in your lifetime, those shall come afterwards, and even the ones who will come after them. So you're able to give a very clear instruction of how to be impacting people that matter to you. So for the enforcer, we have said it is optional, but once you sit with the legal team, you're able to see whether you need it or not. But the basic key parties are just the three. So as we continue now to near the winding up, the registration process for family trust in Kenya has got these steps and these timelines that are stated here. The very first initial step is the preparation of the trust deed. Happens within the first week. The moment you have decided I want to create a family trust, in the first week you concentrate with our legal team, and they now guide you on how to do a trust deed. You can sit with them virtually, physically, whichever mode you may prefer, and then they guide you, and now you draft the deed. And then once it is drafted, after maybe about a week or so, but depending, uh, this the registration. It is registered at the register of documents, and that happens in the Ministry of Lands. Just like I showed you earlier about the laws that govern trust in Kenya. We saw about the register the law in the Lands Act, because we do the registration in the register of documents at the Ministry of Lands. That's why you register the deed. That's the second step. Then it takes around 1 to 3 weeks, but now because it's a government office, we may not be able to determine the period, but we usually fast track, or especially on behalf of our clients. Then the other major stage, which is now very major, is the incorporation. Uh, Under the Perpetual Succession Act of that now family trust to be incorporated into a legal person, whereby now eventually you're going to receive a certificate of incorporation to make it a separate legal person who is now separate and who has their own identity. They can be able to possess properties. They can be able to even make decisions and undertake various steps as a separate legal person from you. So where you are involved as a creator of a trust is just week one, whereby you come and just declare your interest that you want to create the trust. Then we take up the process for you. The stamp duty submission, the registration under the register of documents, and even following up until the stage of incorporation. Sometimes it goes even to 4 months, that period, because sometimes there might be delays in the government offices, but we are the ones who fast track for you. But every time we update, we keep on updating you on the process. And eventually, once we receive the certificate of incorporation, you get it bearing the name of the trust. Now it tells you that you are ready to transfer all the assets that you do own into that family trust. So just as a highlight, or maybe to reiterate as a complete, just contrast trust and wills, and the how why one should be able to consider uh, uh, adopting a more improved model of going through trust instead of just wills, because of these particular stated reasons here. And for me, I'm just going to focus on just one. This number one, about the asset protection versus limited protection. I'm going to give an example of maybe a father, maybe who lived in the 50s and owned maybe like 10 acres of land and had like 5 sons. And then that father uh, did a will to just subdivide that 10 acres among his five sons. Maybe if you do a simple mathematics, you're going to see there were 10 acres initially, 5 sons, meaning every son got 2 acres of land in the second generation. Now in that generation, maybe now in the 90s, those sons now are supposed to subdivide their 2 acres among maybe their each 4 children, probably 4 sons. You can see now dividing the 4 acres among the 2 acres among the 4 sons, meaning that they'll get like a quarter, and then eventually they'll also have to subdivide when they get children, and they are doing their succession process. So if you consider such kind of a model, and pursuing such kind of a model through a will, eventually the asset will be depleted, because from the whole 10 acres initially, all the way up to some people now living in just a very small space just for building, that it cannot be commercially productive. That means that asset is not protected. In fact, it is depleted. So the model of inheritance through a will mostly leads to depletion, as opposed to when you create a trust. You can say that this land that I have, people are going to construct maybe a central area of dwelling. Then the rest of the place can be utilized for commercial value. They can even be doing maybe commercial agribusiness and even do value addition with a productive area. Maybe others can do like what are they feeling if they have discovered a valuable in the land. You do just like something valuable from that land together corporately, and then the proceeds from that kind of an investment corporate is generated into the trust, then distributed equally as by the way it is defined in the trust deed and rules. So that asset will be able to serve all your generations. If it is the housing needs, they will be accommodated there for the ones who dwell in the residence, and those who just travel, they just be getting their proceeds from wherever they are. So I don't know whether that has come up clear, but it's just a demonstration of how, if you pursue a will and if you pursue a trust, is a whole two different kind of an approach. And the will is not very sustainable. Eventually, it will be to bring a lot of not just chaos and the probate, but the issue of even depleting the assets, and now loss of value. And eventually now those people, the ones who come even afterwards, maybe you have to live in rented places, yet their great grandfather had a land somewhere, but they are just now misplaced. So I hope that comes out clear. It's just one of the demonstrations, but with the further discussions, we are going to get even more clarity. So I'm now coming up to the end of the discussion. I just wanted to open the floor just for anyone who may want to clarify something. And as I present this screen here, just to show that and to remind us, maybe those who have joined us along the way, that I had introduced that we offer trust solutions from ICL on Trust Company, and our head office is at ICL on Center in Riverside Park, Chiromo Road, Westlands. You can come physically at Westlands near Chiromo, up on Riverside, and we can always have a sitting together now without having to rush, and be able to really now dive deep and personalize our discussion. Then, or you can visit our portal online, or you can even now contact us through this email here. I've personalized mine. These are my contact details that you can have. And then when you come, you can even talk to all the other members of the team in the company. It's a great company. You can always come and have discussions. So from there, let me just bring it to a close and really pass my gratitude and open the floor for any clarifications from anyone that you may have. I'm willing to just respond. So the floor is open. Karibuni sana. Jacqueline, you are speaking. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you so much, Anne. I know I took a lot of time. That's why I tried to rush because I didn't think it would. I thought 1 hour would have been sufficient. I think I underestimated. Um, any question? Feel free to just ask. I'm open
Thank you
for.
so much, Peter. This was
Yes.
very insightful. I really appreciate the information you've shared. My question is around is the trust subject to the kind of fights that happen when, for example, other families show up after the owner of the trust died, other children show up? Is it usually affected by that, or what happens in those scenarios when there was a trust versus when there was a will?
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Anne, for that great question. And just to clarify, is that for a trust, it cannot be affected by such because it cannot be queried through a court process. Whatever is written in the trust deed and rules is the final illustration, is the final word. Like now, if I can mention just names, like now the Kibaki family, right now they have a succession case because there's a family member who showed up after after Kibaki exited, and they said that they were part of the family, and now that succession case is still ongoing. If Kibaki had established a family trust and defined who are the beneficiaries and given the clear routes, no one could have come from wherever and claimed a stake into that state. So, as opposed to a will that has to go through a court process, even advertising in the papers, the reason why they advertise a will is just to ensure that no one comes to claim a dispute for that 30 days, that period of advertising. But for a trust, the way it is structured, once you structure it, that is final because that is your estate. You structure it and you operate it when you are living. The best thing with the trust is that you do it when you're alive because you establish it, then you nurture it, you modify. Because as you do a trust, it is not cast on stone. Whatever you define in the trust deed and rules, you can always modify. If you want to add any clauses, want to include more assets, more beneficiaries, you can always do that refining over years. And eventually, as you leave it as a structure, to be a very mature system that will be able to govern and operate your estate for years to come. So just to respond is that there's no such kind of a risk of someone showing up and bringing up disputes through court process for a trust. And that's why one of the advantages of having it in place to protect families from such. I hope that is clear on the
Thank
same.
you. That's very clear.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. And, still open to answering and responding to another question.
Oh, hi everyone.
Yes, hi, Jacqueline.
Oh, I joined you a bit later. Now I
Okay,
want some clarity. For
Yes.
example, you have property, let's say land and
Yes.
life insurance policies.
Uh-huh.
You said you can put them in the trust.
Yes.
Did I hear that right?
Yes, yes, it's true.
Does it mean you change the name of the property, or how does that work?
Okay, maybe in terms of like now land or insurance, because those are now different classes of
Let's start
assets
with land.
with the land.
Yes.
Okay,
Pieces, you
okay.
have pieces of land you want to put
Yes.
in the family trust.
Oh,
So
yeah.
does it mean that you change the names, or what happens?
Okay, so in the case of land, what you
Mm-hmm.
do is just like the way like you have a parcel of land when you are selling. So you usually do the transfer from
Mm-hmm.
you as or the owner to a new owner. So in
Mm-hmm.
this case, you are going to change the ownership from now your name as Jacqueline now to the
Mm-hmm.
Jacqueline Family Trust. So now the ownership of that site of land will be under the name of the family trust. But it is still your land. You can even sell it. You can even do commercial work on that or develop it. But it is now owned and not under your name, but under the trust. So the title will be
Hey.
reading now as the new owner, because that's your trust, and the essence of that is to ensure that now that that property will be held now for posterity. Because now if it is under your name only, in the event of succession, you see it has got to go through the probate. Now you should be able to have it in the trust already, so as to ensure that it's already secure, regardless of what happens in life, whether you are here or not. So that transfer is critical. And that once you do the transfer, it is now under the name of the, but now the trust is yours. So there's no cost for alarm because that asset does not belong to the trust company. It still belongs to you. And you can do whatever you desire with it. And it's going to be governed as per the rules you're given in the trust deed and rules.
So if I want maybe to
Yes.
liquidate one of the properties, for example, one piece of land,
Yes.
how do I go about it now that it has been converted to, for example, Jackie Family Trust?
You're going to sell it under your trust because you see you are a trustee. We see that when you are
Mm-hmm.
leaving, you also act as a trustee. So now as a trustee, you're going to now say, I want to dispose of this piece of land, or I want to build some property to develop this piece of land somewhere, maybe like a commercial property. So you can always transact with it, even from the trust. There's no
Okay. How
limitations
easy is
because
that?
very easy because it's just a matter of instruction. There's no invitation.
Okay, all right. The other
Yeah.
no, the other thing was about the policy. You have a life insurance policy. So
Yes.
how does that work as well? Because with life insurance policy, you always list the beneficiaries and the
Yeah. Yeah.
percentage that they get. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you put it in the trust fund?
Okay, for the life insurance policies, that one most people utilize the simple. I had given two examples of trust: the simple cash trust and the family trust. So for the life insurance policies, you can even just utilize the simple cash trust, which is very simple to set up. And then how you go about it is that the place you nominate beneficiaries in your life policy in the policy document, you now write the name of the trust, of the simple cash trust, or maybe the family trust, whichever you have, as part of the beneficiaries, and you instruct that in the event of our maturity, that money shall not be paid to the guardians or to the relatives you had written it into that nomination of beneficiary list, but it is going to be paid into the trust that you have created. And then once the funds comes into the trust that you created, they are now administered as per how you had defined. Especially if it was maybe an education policy or maybe a whole life policy that is supposed to cater for as an inheritance for your people. So whichever purpose you had when you're taking the life cover, you're able now to achieve it now with the full 100% assurance when you have a trust, as opposed to when maybe you had a maturity of like 10 million that's been paid to a relative, like whichever close member to you. You cannot be 100% sure that they're going to manage it prudently as per your expectations if you are not the one who is overseeing that. But you can be able to oversee the same when the payout is done through a trust. Especially if there are minors who should benefit from that kind of a fund, the best way is to do through the trust so that you ensure that no one can come in between, because what the trust does, if it is like a payout of like 10 million, they'll be just paying out portions of money based on the need that arises. And they shall ensure the conservation of the fund, preserve it for the long term, maybe until the children complete the schooling and they are above 18 and even college. So there is a way a trust is structured to receive such kind of benefits. You just have to nominate it in the list of beneficiaries in your policy, or maybe in your pension or annuity, whatever kind of a product that you have, wherever. You can always appoint the trust that you do have, especially the simple cash trust. Is that one everyone is a very simple solution to just have, because that one does not have to undergo any protocols to do the setups. I hope it has clarified something on that.
Yes, thank you so much. And the last question is, what if I want to now get everything back from the trust? Maybe
Uh-huh.
I have a problem or I no longer find the trust useful.
Yes, yes.
What is the process of getting whatever I've deposited back?
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, they are now in the two similar solutions. Maybe the simple cash trust, which is very easy to set up. You can always do an instruction. How you can terminate a trust, especially the simple cash trust, is by withdrawing all the money. The money that is held in a simple cash trust is not locked. You can always, as the founder or the settler of the trust, you can always say that you want to withdraw if you desire to do so. So if you withdraw the cash from that trust and the balances come to zero, that brings about the termination, because without funds in the trust, it just terminates. That's the simple cash trust. Now the family trust, which is more advanced now, and even is incorporated as a legal person and receiving back even the assets. How, if you think at some point in your lifetime you want to revoke it, is somewhere you define in the trust deed and rules. You say that I reserve the right to set up this trust as a revocable trust, because there are two major categories. There's revocable trust and irrevocable. So you can say I want to set it up as a revocable trust, so that even in the case you are not pleased by that operation of the trust, you can always revoke it and undo the whole process. But if you create it as a irrevocable trust, it means you don't have the right to revoke. So you can define that at the point of creation when you're drafting the trust deed. Say that I want to have that right, that in the event I want to revoke, I can always revoke. So that power of revoking can be exercised in your lifetime as the founder of the trust. But the moment you pass, you exit the scene, it now becomes irrevocable. That power is only exercisable by the founder when they are alive, if they want to revoke the trust. But now the ones who come after you, they cannot revoke the trust. Like now the Jigakarume family, sorry to mention names, because the trust was not very effective for them, because for them they had a registered trust. It was not incorporated. It was registered through the advocate, and then they are just appointed the individual trustees who are the friends of Jigakarume. But now eventually they did not operate as per how the agreement had been drafted, because you see, when you registered a trust under your name, you can even procure things, and because you're a trustee, you can even procure, dispose, or operate as you desire, being a trustee. So those trustees who are individuals that Jigakarume had, they were not operating in the best interest of the beneficiaries of Jigakarume. And now the children of Jigakarume wanted to revoke that trust, and they went to the court to start that process, but it was rejected by the courts, because after the founder has exited, you cannot revoke the trust. But Jagakarume had defined the process of firing trustees and appointing others. So what happened? They replaced those trustees and appointed others, and now that query now just cooled down. So when you are leaving, you can revoke the trust, but once you exit the scene, it becomes irrevocable now. It is now testamentary. It will now exist forever as per how you are defined in the deed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, most welcome. Yeah,
I have a
feel
question. I have a question.
yes, Josephat More.
So if you're so if maybe is a business and it has a board of directors, for example,
Yeah.
uh, but of course you are the shareholder. So how does that run when it's a family trust past you, when there's a board of maybe directors, say like independent directors? That is one.
Yes.
Number two,
Yeah. Yes.
sometimes when you're taking loan or these credit facilities, there is this option of maybe you're using the maybe it's land or building also
Yeah.
is the collateral. And sometimes
Yeah.
the loans have what we call, I think, death insurance or something. If you pass by, the loan gets written off because you've paid a premium for death.
Yeah.
So does it still apply on a trust? Will does it mean the loan will continue because the other person is not dead? The trust is not dead or something like that. Uh, Maybe those two questions. And number three,
Yes.
still, when you want to revoke the trust and you want to transfer now your assets from the trust back to you,
Yes.
initially you have been exempted from stamp duty. Does it apply? Does the stamp duty now apply when you're revoking?
Okay, okay. Well, that's very interesting. So the first question is about the directors and the shareholding. So when you have a business, so in such case, it's about the ownership, because now right now you are the original owner, and the business has got directors, if I get correctly, and then you have transferred that business into the trust. So what happens when you want to transfer your venture or your business enterprise into your trust? You mostly, because you work with shareholding, because business is owned through shareholding. You just decide the kind of shareholding you want to transfer, whether it is the whole 100% or maybe part of it. You just transfer it into the trust. We are now assuming you are the owner of the business, and the directors just operate under you because now you are the main owner. And these directors, maybe you have defined how they are appointed, how they operate, how they should be able to report. So it's all about the shareholding, transferring from yourself personally to the name of the trust. But it is still your trust, so it is still your business now, but owned under the trust for the purpose of future governance. Now, in the case of loans and taking loans, um, that's a matter of now of liability. You can still the business in the trust can still take a loan in the name of that trust. But now the liability of a loan, you see, a loan is it's a liability that you have to be able to honor. So normally they usually put the directors uh, as a guarantor. They become guarantors. Are you getting?
Yes, I'm getting.
Yeah, yeah. So they have that liability. But in the event if they pass on, if someone passes on, you see there's that credit life. Because when you're taking a loan, there's that credit life. There's no a loan can never be approved without a credit life cover. So that will have to come into play because even if you have guaranteed that loan, mostly if there's the cause of death, it will be honored through that credit life cover to be able to meet that particular gap. But the business cannot be prohibited from taking a loan, even if it is under the family trust. They can continue to operate normally and to be able to get facilities wherever they need to access, but without the same operational procedures that do take place normally. Here is just about the ownership that has shifted, but every other operation that goes about to do with businesses continues normally. But now the ownership is just has been shifted from yourself now to your trust. The final question, maybe you can just remind me, Mr. Moria,
Was when you revoke whether you
when you
faced a
revoke.
duty. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Okay, that's a very diverse scenario. For me, let me say, and be very what do I say, vulnerable. I've not encountered a case whereby there's a revocation of a trust. I may have to confirm that for you instead of see. I can just confirm that for you, then I can advise you. But I am just the general reasoning could be if the operation of a trust when you are transferring, there is the that exempt. It should still apply when you're exiting. But this one depends on the current laws of the land. Like now, you see the way in Kenya, every year there's that change of the finance bill, and you can see something which was exempt last year has now been is not exempt anymore. So it depends. It may depend, but that's something you can always confirm. That's something you can always confirm and be able to clarify. I hope you give me that leeway to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, for that revocation, where do you suffer the loss of that tax or still exempt? It's a very simple thing to just clarify. I'm going to get in touch with our legal tax team and just I'll inbox you personally on the same.
Okay, fine.
I hope.
Yeah, I get it. So,
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
Also to confirm, you said that if it's a life insurance, you can just use what we call the cash trust fund for to pay the benefits, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You
Fine.
can open the simple cash trust, cash and carry. Within a day, you have it, and let's just appoint it as a beneficiary to receive your payouts when they are due.
What if on the payouts, assuming
Yes,
maybe you have two from whatever sources, each has
yes.
different instructions. How do you do that on a cash trust fund?
For the payouts of
Say you have two payouts. I'm looking for the next one, but assuming you have insurance and you have
a
maybe
pension.
some pension, you get,
Yes, yes,
but
yes.
you'd want them utilized differently, or you'd want the beneficiaries or whichever way to be different. How do you do that with
Okay,
a cash
okay.
trust fund? Yeah.
All right, all right. That one, how you accomplish it is just by defining through the grant letter. You see, the operation of a cash trust is through the grant letter, as opposed to the family trust, which operates by the deed. So in the grant letter of the cash trust, you just give a very specified instruction. There's a room whereby you are given a room to add extra instructions. Of course, it's a standardized letter for you that governs the trust, but you're able to give your specific instructions and say the money from my policy should serve this purpose. The money from the pension should go to this other purpose or should be for this other particular objective. So you define through the grant letter the operation of that simple cash trust and the benefits
Oh,
do come. Yeah,
okay, I get it.
yeah.
Okay, one other question, Peter, from me is I've noticed on the family trust there are legal processes. What's
Yes.
the cost of establishing that? Because probably those offices charge some amounts of money.
Yes, yes. In fact, that one I had skipped me. Thank you so much for that. For the family trusts, that one does not come free like the cash trust. Because you see now there's all matters to do with that whole process of the legal teams, how the advice you get, all the guidance, the registration, and all the incorporation. So there is a standard cost of 350,000 for the family trust. But when one pays a lump sum, you get a discount of 10%. Whereby it is now 315,000 if you do a lump sum, and that cost now covers the whole structure of the setting up to make it ready to receive every asset that you do own under that one in-house family trust. So it is 350,000. And if you compare with the cost of going to the courts for the succession, because it's going to save you from the process of probate and all those hassles, because those other processes consume, if not more money, they consume the similar money or even more. Leave alone the hassle that do come with. So that's the cost of setting up, and once you pay that, you are good. You have your family trust. You follow up until you get the incorporation certificate under your name of the family trust. So that's the cost, but no other cost. From there now, the other cost maybe we will devote to the transfers, which come now at a future dates, because maybe you have another land that you've bought, you want to bring it into the trust, or maybe you have another property. You can always now do the transfer. The simple transfer costs do come later. So that's the cost. And
Thank you.
okay, all right, all right. I'm still open to the very final questions before we bring it to a close. I don't know if I've locked out anyone, because now I'm seeing it's already 9:30. Anyone who has a final question before maybe we can wind it up?
Hello.
Yes, hi, Fred.
Yeah. Other than the starting costs,
Yes,
because
yes,
this is a company then that's running a trust on your behalf. What are
yes.
the running costs of this? Because that is
Okay,
what is been silent about.
okay. Oh,
That's
yeah.
maybe why people are preferring wills, because the trust on the other side has cost. Maybe that's something you speak about.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah, about the running cost, there is usually something we call a management fee, which is usually 1% of the fund value. Whereby, if you like the way I said, you can set up a trust, then become a trustee together with the corporate. So you are co-trustees, yourself as individual, and then ICL Trust Company as a corporate trustee. So if you have appointed ICL as a corporate trustee, they'll be charging you that 1% per annum of the fund value that you do have into the trust. But if that is expensive and you feel that you don't have to incur the cost because you are also a trustee and you're able to oversee your estate, what people do and how they structure it is that they appoint the corporate as a successor trustee. So that you are here, you have transferred your property into the trust for shielding and structuring, but about the governance, maybe if you have like rentals, you have ventures that are operating, you are the one who is overseeing that operation, not the trustee, not the corporate trustee. So that in that case, they will not charge you anything because they are a successor. They're not immediate trustee. So they only come into play the moment after you exit the scene. So now they took over the operation of the trust. And even if you may want to escape that trust, that cost again, that management fee again, you can say, my successor trustee is not the company. It is going to be every firstborn. You define in the trust and say, in every family that is born under my lineage, the trustee will be the firstborn of every family that comes under my family tree. So an individual trustee will not we will help you to escape that cost, even for posterity, so that your assets are held in the trust with a structure, with the guidelines of the trust deed. Then any trust who comes into play, whether it is you now, then after you, the firstborn shall be born in your lineage, very firstborn, they'll operate under the fiduciary responsibility of obeying the trust deed and rules that you had instructed, so that they are going to effect it and to be overseeing that trust, and we shall not be incurring any cost. But there are those who don't trust those who will come after them, and they say, maybe in my lifetime, let me manage, and then the company be the successor, so that after I pass on, now the company shall come into play. So you have those, there's how you can play around with it, so that you can escape the management fee forever, or you can save it during your lifetime, or there are those who even come and appoint the company directly, whereby you are a trustee, co-trustee with the company, and still the company is also helping you to manage the estate, especially for those who have very big estates and wide portfolios which are very complex. They may see that they need to incorporate the corporate from the word go. But the advantage of the structure, whereby you're able to create the structure and give governance on how to be operated, that one is an advantage for all, regardless of the side of the estate, and you don't have to incur the management fee. You can escape it forever if you desire so, or you can appoint the company as a successor in whichever you may prefer. So there's how you can play around with it. You don't have to incur the management fee if you don't so desire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, most welcome, Fred. All right. Any other question, maybe? So for me, I'm so glad. I'm so much delighted and so grateful for your patience. You have taken over 2 hours. Like Annie joined very early, and Fred and Joseph, Samuel, Mwaniki, Jacqueline, all of you. Thank you so much there. I'm so grateful because of the session we have had. I trust that we have been able to gain something. I know we were rushing because of the time constraints, but because most of us have interacted through the contact, you can always get in touch with me. I can refer you to our people there. We can always talk. If you're in Nairobi, you can come to Westlands. so that we have an interaction, so that we can be able to see how we can structure these things. So thank you so much. We can always escalate this conversation. And if you need more clarifications, maybe on a personal level, feel free to either call me or inbox me, and we can always talk. And if there are any case that we may need to consult the legal team, we can always do that together, so to give you the very best direction on how to approach these matters of legacy and wealth administration. So thank you so much. I want to close the session and do wish you a great time and a blessed night. And we shall see each other another time. Thank you so much.